Welcome to the Lawson and Gift podcast. Make sure to hit that like button, share the videos, and subscribe. Week 12 is upon us, Lawson, and we're going to be giving our power rankings.
First one we did in a while. Make sure everyone hits the like button. Go check out the Vegas spread picks, which we record every Tuesday. We love winning you guys money. At number one, I'll let you start.
Yeah, and I also want to say, too, like, when we get to, like, the 13, 14 mark, I'm just surprised, like you said last week, how many bad teams there are. Like, how many teams are 5 wins or less right now. It's pretty amazing.
Really at, like, the 14, 15 mark. After the 15 mark, I'm like, all of these are pretty bad.
It is. It's a lot this year. But let's start with number one, and this is where I have the Saints. And it was a tough choice. There's a few teams that you can put up there, but I thought when I look at the Saints, they have the least issues of any of the top-tier teams. I think really the only thing anybody could say is, you know, maybe Drew Brees is going to have some issue in the playoffs, but I'm sitting here saying, well, he doesn't even have to be spectacular the way they're winning games. The offensive line's playing great. They're running the football. Kamara is taking a lot of slack off of everybody offensively. And then that defense, you can't push them around.
It's really physical, that defense. Plus, they got one elite player in the secondary. That always helps. Yeah. Maybe the most physical defense in football. Not the best by any means, but physical. Mm-hmm. And then, like you said, the offense might be the most balanced in the league. Of course, the Chiefs is better, but we haven't naturally seen them hitting full octane. Give me the Saints at number one. Also, Michael Thomas has been ridiculous this year. That has also helped. And the fact that they could win games with Teddy Bridgewater, it eases my anxiety about Drew Brees getting older. But I do have to say the one way in which they're vulnerable is Drew Brees does not push that rock over 30 yards too well anymore. That's my only problem with the Saints.
All right, and with that, let's go to number two. This will be controversial because right now they're having some issues, but I have the Patriots here. Now I want to go back to last year because I remember you had your reservations about Gronk, and you said, you know, how are the Patriots going to figure this out? Do they have another run in them? And we saw how that worked out. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that Belichick's not going to be able to figure this out. That's where I'm at with it. They're still a really good football team. I know offensively they have to figure some things out. The offensive line has to play better. Defensively, we saw that you can run on them a little bit, but I think Belichick's going to get this right.
Patriots as well, but this is really, with me having reservations, severe reservations. Yeah. If you're a Chiefs fan, you got to be wondering, if this year isn't it, when is it going to be?
Not looking like
not
it.
Trying to go off topic, but I got the Patriots at 2, but it's very, very reserved number 2 for me. Yeah. And if you're a Chiefs fan, you got to be thinking, like, if we don't get it this year, when are we going to get it?
And Lawson, I don't know if they're going to be able to. I have them further down my list, and I'm legitimately worried about the Chiefs.
I got the who do you got at 3?
At 3, I got the 49ers.
I got the Niners because you have to, but I'm wavering on this. If you had to give me a choice between the Niners and Chiefs with a bullet to my head, Chiefs are winning in a neutral field site as of right now, but they have a lot of problems. I got 49ers at 3, though, because they could run the rock, and then, like you said, Emmanuel Sanders is going to change a lot for that team. So I think that's under development, and they have the nastiest pass rush in the league. One reason why the Saints are number 1 is because they have a nasty pass rush as well. It helps.
Yeah, you can score points and you can get after opposing teams' quarterbacks. That's the best formula to win, I believe. But yeah, the 49ers, so many things they're doing right, you know, and you got to like the other elements too. Deebo Samuel stepping up now. Offensive line has been playing good too. McGlinchey has, you know, really proven himself this year. You got to give credit there. But yeah, defensively, obviously, Bosa.
And the coaching's really good. And for 49ers fans that are starting to get worried, every single really good team kind of has a lull at some point in the season. It's just about stealing games, and the Cardinals aren't as bad as they were. So I'm not really worried because of those Cardinals games.
No, I'm not worried either. And you can't go 16-0 every season. It's not going to happen. And with that, let's go to number 4, and this is where I have the Packers. Worried about the defense a little bit going forward. Especially against the run and in the short passing game, I think teams have figured them out a little bit, and that's a problem. But you got Aaron the Game Rodgers finally with a somewhat formidable defense for the most part. And they're trying to find the run game. But I more or less like how they're playing defense, though. More so than anything.
At number 4, I don't think the Packers have enough defense. Like you said, in the secondary, they're good. The rest of it is just garbage and really, really soft. At number 4, speaking of bad defenses, I got the Kansas City Chiefs. And you saw how the Seahawks were able to beat the 49ers because they had the better quarterback. At some point, you have to lay down those chips and put Mahomes at least number 4. I could see an argument for them being number 2, but their defense is really, really bad. Yeah. And we've been pounding the table ever since Kareem Hunt got suspended. They need to try to reestablish this run game. Many Chiefs fans have came on here and said we were delusional and started piping out stats. But you want to know what? They run against like 6-man fronts because Mahomes slings it all day at a really high rate. Chiefs got to be more physical running the football. Defense is going to be bad, but I think they can generate at least something there as the season goes on. Give me Chiefs. Explosive offense. Most explosive team in the league still.
Yeah, they're a little bit more further down my list, and I'll get to that when we get there. But I have my reservations. Defense, you mentioned, the run game is something I still can't get over that for them. And then with that, we'll go to the Vikings at number 5 for me. I like a lot of what they do. A lot of this is me thinking Zimmer's going to get this defense right going down the stretch. That's part of it. But I like the formula of how they win games. Physicality, running the football. I like that.
I'll get to the Vikings, but I don't know if this defense is going to come along. That's the problem. Yeah. Number 5, I got Baltimore. And if you run the ball successfully in this league, it doesn't matter how good you throw it. And then on the play action gift, they're able to generate plays on play action. Do I think the Baltimore Ravens are going to win or make a Super Bowl? Absolutely not. But as of right now, I don't feel like I have any other choice but to put them at 5. But if you phrased it to me this way, like the Ravens play Packers or Seahawks or Vikings on a neutral field, I'd probably go with the Vikings, Packers, and I might lean towards the Seahawks, even though the Ravens already beat the Seahawks. Yeah. The Ravens are the biggest wait-and-see team in this league, but everyone thinks I'm trolling. But seriously, Baltimore has to be 5 here, Giff, at this point with what they've done. And now I think their schedule's going to ease down and they can beat up on the AFC North.
They're not too much further down my list. I just think it's like you said, if you project, and for me it's a little bit of projection into the playoffs, I think they're going to have their issues because, we mentioned before about the front 7.
I'm just not sold on it.
And are they going to be able to just straight up pound teams in the playoffs? That's, running all over them. I don't think that's going to happen. And with that, we'll go to 6, and this is where I know that it's going to sound crazy because of the defense, but there are some things that the Seahawks have been doing good.
The quarterback play.
Absolutely, but I think the emergence of Clowney now, giving them a pass rush defensively, is making things look a lot better with the Seahawks.
An elite pass rusher can make a really bad defense or a below-average defense look pretty good. It really can. And the Seahawks at least have enough periphery players where they can patch.
Yeah, and I do like the fact that they brought in Josh Gordon. We'll see how that develops going forward. He had a couple big catches at the end of that 49ers game. Metcalf is developing slowly. Probably have to wait till next year to see the full development of that. But yeah, Russell Wilson, with how clutch he is, and if the defense is going to be able to get the ball back to him, I got to go with Russell in these big games.
At number 6, I got the Packers, and this is purely quarterback. This is purely Aaron the Game Rodgers whipping work and controlling the tempo and pace of the game. Yeah. And when you look at this Packers team, we've been saying it all year, we're really excited about the secondary. That's going to help in the playoffs, but they definitely need to shore up this run game. That's why they're number 6 right now. And for me, I know people will say we're wrong, but I'm not really excited about the Aaron Jones and the Packers running it. I don't know if that's something you can rely on against the 49ers in the playoffs, or rely on against the Vikings or Saints in the playoffs. Yeah. It's just not something you can rely upon, and they have to realize that, and they have to sling it more, and Devontae Adams needs to be healthy for this team to have a chance. Super Bowl contenders, but I don't know if they've added enough innovation or physicality to reach that point. Because one thing about the 49ers, Saints, Patriots is that they're physical as hell.
I agree. And to elaborate more on earlier, because the Packers being so high, even with the deficiencies defensively with the Packers and certain teams exploiting them, it still is the best defense that Aaron Rodgers has had in quite some time. And we know that he can still put up points.
Yeah.
I like that formula. But I do think, and we're going to talk more about that in Game of the Week, but I think there are some overrated aspects to the Green Bay defense as well.
Yeah.
And with that, we'll hit number 7, and this is where I have the Chiefs. And Lawson, the worries are real, because are they just going to be able to throw it with Mahomes? Because right now, that's all they have.
Well, you don't get to play the Chargers every week.
Exactly, yeah. And with Rivers' performance in that game, man.
Well,
wow.
we only predicted it 6-7 weeks ago.
Yeah, we told everybody how bad that was and that he needs to retire, and he does. And his contract is up, I believe, so he should. But, Lawson, the defense, you mentioned that already. That's a big concern with the Chiefs. But the lack of run game is really bothering me. I love Mahomes, and I love all the weapons they have. And, yes, they're going to put up points no matter what through the air. But when it comes playoff time, when you got to play these better teams, just throwing, I don't think, is going to be enough. We've seen teams now, they're getting better with taking Kelsey out of the game. We've seen that in recent weeks.
Yeah, and I guess I can't argue with your position, even though I have the Chiefs at number 4. My big question about the Chiefs is me phrasing a hypothetical like this. It's December, it's late December, early January. They're going on the road to play Baltimore. How does the ball sling around with 20-degree, 15-mile-per-hour winds when you can't really run it and you're in like 3rd and 7 situations?
Not good.
That's where I'm looking to, and that's why they're vulnerable. Well, and because the defense, of course, too, but we already hammered that home.
And the Chiefs are my number 7.
Seahawks, Russell, America, Wilson. It's really simple. Russell, America, Wilson, Clowney, and a pretty consistent run game are why I have Seattle at 7.
Good points. And then with that, let's get to number 8. This is where I have the Ravens. Record-wise, sure, you can put them up a little higher. You have them higher on your list. And with the teams they've beaten, that New England game, I was very impressed. But I still think down the stretch, again, when they play some of these top-tier teams, they're going to have issues. No way that was the real New England. I'm sorry, but that was too easy. You're not going to be able to run up the middle on playoff teams and that be your main way of success. It's not going to happen.
It can be. If you're good, if you got an elite O-line, I mean, we did see the Rams kind of march down, but yeah, then the Patriots stopped them when it mattered.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams, and that was an elite O-line. I don't know if the Ravens have that. I'm not saying that they're bad or anything. I just don't know if it's at that level. Sure. And then I'm not sold on this front 7. I mean, they send the blitz and they get some stuff done when they do that, but come playoff time and when they play these other teams and they're not getting pressure on these elite quarterbacks, it's going to be an issue.
Yeah, I agree completely. At 8, I got the Vikings. Now, this is a team with a lot of potential to move forward. I saw you had them at 5. That was rather interesting. Mm-hmm. Now, with the Vikings, there's a few things to watch. I have been concerned with some of the offensive line push in the run game, especially the last few weeks. Even though Dalvin Cook is damn good, you have to at least move someone. For the Broncos, I know the Broncos have a pretty good run D, but the Broncos defensive line dominated the Vikings front. There's no other way to put it. Yeah. That was one reason why the hole was dug. You still got Kirk Cousins, and while he has been playing really good, you did see the image of what Kirk Cousins kind of is every once in a while and when situations get tough. Thirdly, the Vikings can't cover anyone. So I'm not trying to be overly negative, but when you invest so much in your secondary and you can't get close to people, that's a problem. So that's why I'm worried about the Vikings. I think the offense will be good enough to maybe make a surprising run, especially if the run game gets back to what it was a few weeks back. But the defense not getting close to people isn't going to work when you have to play a really good quarterback.
Yeah, and Dak putting up over 400 isn't a good thing either, no matter how it happened. And I think you got to just wonder what the problem is. I mean, obviously Zimmer is atop of that list because the defense is his baby, and that's what he has to get right. But the talent, I mean, with the talent they have, I don't understand why that would be a problem. Even if it is single coverage, why would it be a problem?
Exactly, and this is where I think the list gets interesting. because I think these 8 teams were something we could all set in stone and believe in. It's going to get chaotic after this.
And notice how we didn't mention the Cowboys yet, so I just want everyone to note that. But let's get to number 9, and this is where I have the Colts. Now, there are some reservations. T.Y.'s health, huge, because that's a lot of their offense.
Of course.
Brissett and his consistency, obviously that could be a part of it. And then defensively, they're not bad. I feel like they give their team a chance to win, but I'm not sold that they're going to be, a top 10 defense going forward down the stretch. I don't know. We've seen good signs from it. We've seen bad. But the way that offensive line is playing, that's where I'm at with it right now. If they're able to control games, if they truly are, if this offensive line is as dominant as I think it is right now, I like that for them.
Yeah, I originally had the Colts penciled in here, but I do think they have some serious problems. But here's a team with some serious problems, but the way they're playing right now, I got to give them credit. At number 9, I am going the Oakland Raiders, Gift.
Wow.
And I know this defense doesn't have a lot of talent, but you look at someone like Max Crosby, he's outperformed Clelin Ferrell by a lot. He's playing really good football, and they're able to patch in the secondary, and Gunther makes people play hard on defense. Now you look at offense, you got the run game, and you got a heavy dose of play action. They obviously need another wide receiver to be taken serious.
Yes.
There's a reason why we keep questioning the depth in the NFL, because after these first 8 teams, none of these teams below this are going to make a run. I'd bet my life on it.
A lot of problems.
Yeah, a lot of problems. But right now, the Raiders are playing crisp, clean, turnover-free, winning the turnover-battled games. That's why you got to give them a lot of credit.
And with that, we'll go to our number 10 spot, and I got the Cowboys here.
I got the boys as well.
Fair spot to put them. They would probably be a little bit higher if Zeke was on his game, because I think that would change a lot offensively for them in grinding out games especially. But right now, the emergence of Gallup, I've been echoing that recently, and I think it can't be denied that he's finding his groove. It's benefiting Dak immensely. So offensively, if they're going to be able to get guys open, that part of their offensive problems is fixed then.
But
Great.
Is Dak going to throw for 400 on the road to Green Bay?
Probably not. Not against that secondary if they can't run the football.
Yeah, but I got them at 10, and they can't run the football. We're getting to that point, and I think a lot of people are like pointing to the offensive line, and yes, this offensive line isn't what it was. Mm-hmm. We know Connor Williams has missed a lot of time, but Zeke, he doesn't look into this.
That's what it is. That's what it is, and yeah, the offensive line could play better, but you don't see the Rams complaining. You don't see Todd Gurley complaining. They're not playing at an elite level anymore, but Gurley still put up, that he got his 100 last week.
Yeah,
so. And
then you factor in the coaching equation, and if you really factor in this coaching equation, like for instance, I think listen, I was excited when the Vikings beat the Cowboys. Don't get me wrong, it's my team, but Jason Garrett ran them out of that game. He really did. The Cowboys were going to win that, and he ran it 2 times in a row, and it just created a hot mess. Jason Garrett's a factor here, and there's too many factors for me, and it's hard for me to admit that the Cowboys are better than the Raiders. I think the Raiders beat them if they play right now.
It would be an interesting game, sure, but it's a good point, Lawson. The Raiders need to be noted, but Garrett, just an average coach with issues that I think brings down a team. I can't disagree with that. And with that, let's go to number 11. This is where I have the Rams. Now, will they find their way offensively? I don't know. They need to get some guys back. Obviously, having Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods out isn't going to help anything. Yeah. Those guys got to play for them to have a chance. Run game slowly coming along, not where they need it to be. That's why they're further down this list. If the run game is clicking on all cylinders and this offense was on fire like last year, they'd be higher up the list. But on a positive note, the defense is back on track, it looks like. The Ramsey trade was huge. I like what they're doing defensively now. Offensively, they got to get better.
I got the Rams as well. And McVay, he's got to adjust to what people are doing to this team. We saw them get back in vogue with the run game, but it wasn't anything special. But I think they play action passing with Jared Goff is a lot better than 5-step drops asking him to make 2 or 3 reads, because that's not going to work. But Rams are right here, like you said, because of the renaissance on defense.
And let's go to number 12. This is where I have the Buffalo Bills. Certainly there are issues defensively. You can run it. You can pound them. And against teams going down the stretch here, it's going to be a really big issue.
Well, that was my litmus test when I was comparing the Bills to these other teams. I got them at 13, but if the Bills do have that problem where they can be pounded and they don't have a legit number 1 receiver, and if anyone types John Brown is a number 1 receiver, because of YouTube violations, I can't say what I want to do to you.
But it is amazing though how people think that just because he has a good game against Miami, in the games that they needed to win, like if you look at the Cleveland game, if you look at the Patriot game, he didn't do much, and that's when you need someone like that to step up. Beating on the Dolphins isn't that great.
No, man.
But yeah, that would be the other issue with the Bills and why they're further down this list. The offensive woes.
Yeah, and I'll talk more about the Bills when they come up because they're coming up soon. But I'm going to go Colts here, solid, safe, Reich. That's all we really need to say. I addressed the Colts earlier.
Yep, and with that, let's go to number 13. Houston Texans pop up here for me. The fact that the defense is good against the run, I do factor that into equation. That they're not going to get pushed around each Sunday. The defense will give them a chance to win to an extent. Obviously, issues in the secondary, though, too. That's why they're further down this list. Then offensively, and I said it a few weeks ago when Will Fuller got hurt, I can't take the offense seriously without both Hopkins and Fuller on the field. So the offense, even though it's still a little bit explosive, it's not dangerous.
Kenny Stills is no Will Fuller. I think that's one thing we all learned. Not that we didn't know that already. I remember on our old podcast, we went crazy when the Dolphins gave him that big deal. I guess that's why they're in the position they are now. At 13, I got the Bills.
Yep.
But the lack of revolution on this team is what's bothering me. Now, let me explain it. Defense is going to be good. It's going to be good. It's going to be solid. But now we're starting to see cracks in the run game, and I haven't really seen any adjustments to the run defense. Now on offense, it seems like the Bills really believe they're a throwing team. Have they seen their wide receiving core? Their wide receiving core is the size of me. They're relying on Dawson Knox to make clutch plays. This is not a good recipe when you play against someone good. For this being said, the Bills need to run the rock. They need to dedicate the offensive line. They need to get the offensive line better at run blocking. But there's no evolution. And even the Philly game, they had a chance to come back in that early second half. Started running it really well. Then you know what? They started throwing it every down. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Bills are 13.
Yeah, and I'll add one little side note there to the Bills because you're right. I feel like if they altered the offense a little bit, they could be better. There should be a lot more play action. There should be a lot more misdirection with the fact that Allen can actually run the football dangerously.
Yeah, we haven't. Okay, and listen, there's been some positive things, and I know Bills fans are starting to get a little gorilla hype after
I'm not.
Josh Allen put up some really nice passing statistics against the Miami Dolphins. Jesus. But, yeah, he hasn't taken over games like he did last year. I remember games he specifically pulled rabbits out of the hat by individual plays. When have we seen that? And please do not say the Dolphins.
No, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the league is ready for him. You know, and a quarterback running alone, it's not going to be a winning formula. Just that. We've seen him break some runs, but I think just teams are more prepared.
It was ridiculous at points last year. Like you were like, it was kind of like Lamar Jackson 2 weeks ago when he just completely went off. It was like that for Josh Allen. I just haven't seen him go off, and I don't think they're putting him in positions to win.
Oh, I 100% agree. I think the offensive coordinator needs to be fired.
Dabble.
Yeah, get him out of there. And with that, let's go to number 14. This is where I have the Raiders. You mentioned them already. They probably would be higher up this list if the defense was a little bit better. That secondary, the linebacking core, I have my issues with that. I would say the defensive line is probably overachieving. You mentioned Crosby. He's a big reason for that. And offensively, that offensive line is one of the best, one of the biggest in the league. Josh Jacobs looking great, so he's just going to get better going forward, but they need another target.
Carr's been precise this year. And
Yes.
I think a lot of it's coaching. And here's why I like the Raiders. I'll make it really simple. John Gruden knows what he wants on offense. Paul Guenther knows what he wants on defense. Everyone knows their role, and they're fighting in unison. And they've already passed the harsh moments of the schedule. It's all downhill from here. Am I saying the Raiders are going to make noise in the playoffs? No. But I think it's highly likely they get that second wild card next to the Buffalo Bills.
And I can't disagree. And Lawson, I love, you mentioned the offensive line. That's so big. And in a playoff game, those are the type of guys that you need to step up to win. So if they did get a wild card, the defense might keep them from being dangerous and the lack of targets.
Yeah, that's the problem. But at least you know you have a coaching framework, and this is the best Carr's played in a long time.
Yeah, and if an opposing team doesn't come with everything they have physically, you're going to push them around. We've seen them do it this year. And my number 14 was the Raiders. And
Texans. Just not excited about Bill O'Brien. They should be higher. I mean, they have more overall talent than the Colts. They have more overall talent than the Bills. But I just don't like the direction of Houston right now. But someone's got to win this AFC South. I keep going back and forth. I guess I'm going to just solidify it and just go the Colts because they're more consistent.
Yeah, I have to go with the Colts as well. And I mentioned it earlier about Bill O'Brien, but I have to reiterate, not any changes offensively.
Yeah.
And they need to make some kind of adjustments because Watson is really good. Hopkins is really good. I know Fuller's out, but there should be more going on there. And with that, let's go to 15, and this is where I have the Titans right in the middle.
I got the Eagles, but I have the Titans coming up soon as well. I'll let you say why you got the Titans.
Yeah, well, I love Henry, Derrick Henry, the fact that they're committed to running the football. That's part of it. Also, Tannehill instead of Mariota, that's been a resurgence. So you got to give credit to Tannehill in this instance. And I feel like, going forward, they can be a little bit optimistic about the receiving core. Not right away because players have to develop, but I feel like, you look at Davis, he's been playing really good this year. And then A.J. Brown, I feel like he's going to keep getting better. So there are elements that I like. And then defensively, I would say that the pass rush isn't always there. It's certainly an issue, but it is still a solid defense, and it's well coached.
I got the Eagles, and it feels like the Eagles are sleepwalking, and I'm not ruling out another run, but I think we were right a few weeks ago when we did the Eagles are done video.
Yeah.
I mean, I was expecting them to get upset by the Bears, but I think that Eagles is done video has plenty of merit.
It's not for lack of trying. It's just that right now between the injuries and talent, it's just hurting them.
And we could talk about the defense. We can talk about the lack of run game. We can talk about Lane Johnson and Peters both being hurt and banged up this year. But the thing that really bothers me is how they let this wide receiving core degrade. And I know they made the gamble on Deshaun Jackson, but watching some of their receivers when Alshon Jeffrey is out, it's tough to watch. Like Aguilar, it's really, really bad.
I'm almost at a point where I think I might be able to help them more than Jordan
Arcega Whiteside or Jordan Matthews. You certainly got a bigger body.
I might be. I'm not even lying about that. I usually don't joke about that, but it's pathetic.
It's bad.
Trying to force the ball to Jordan Matthews is not a winning recipe at all.
Or having to throw that Aguilar 3rd and 7 when the Patriots send a zone blitz and your offensive line doesn't pick it up, you make a perfect throw and it still hits the ground.
Yeah,
it's frustrating.
It's a huge problem.
I don't even think Wentz is the problem. He's not even up on my list.
There's no run game. There's nowhere for him to throw the football to. Ertz is about all, and teams are taking him away, so there's not much else to do. They should have had some type of an insurance policy. I didn't like the Arcega Whiteside draft.
We never liked that, and I don't know what they saw in that guy, but him and Aguilar are really terrible.
And I guess the one thing that we didn't see coming, and you mentioned it, was Alshon Jeffrey's injury. I didn't really think, I thought maybe D-Jax, you want to have insurance for him not playing. He historically has gotten hurt, but Alshon Jeffrey too, that's just too much.
Yeah, it's too much. I got the Titans at 16 because they're solid. I think they have a chance to win the division. Not overall excited about the Titans, though, because I think this Tannehill thing will start to combust a little bit.
It'll flutter out, and it's still a team coached by Vrabel. I will give him credit to the defensive side of the football. I think he keeps that afloat quite well. And again, I mentioned the pass rush being an issue because you got old Cameron Wake there. You're trying to get the most out of him, but he doesn't have much left. And so I think going next year, they're going to have to figure out their pass rush. But with that being said, at 16, I have the Eagles, so we have the Titans-Eagles right near each other.
Yeah, I think this is where they belong. I'm not ruling out a run from the Eagles, even though they shouldn't be able to make the playoffs. But Cowboys have their own laundry list of issues.
And then at number 17, and I'm actually going to make a grammatical change here because of the game that just took place, but I have the Browns at 17.
Oh, come on, man. Come on.
Well, okay, who's better than the Browns at this point, at 17?
At 17? I got two teams for sure I know are better.
Because I'm looking down the rest here, and I'm not seeing a whole lot.
Yeah. I mean, I hate the Panthers, too, and it's corny, it's boring. But the Panthers are better than the Browns.
That O-line, the way Kyle Allen looked this past week, was it gonna last? Was it ever gonna last? I don't think so.
But what's lasted on the Browns?
Not much. I mean, their
did just come off a win. Their best player is now suspended.
On the defensive side, but they still have a lot of talent offensively. And they might turn it around still. Not playoffs. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying win a few games.
Oh, okay. I agree with you. They're going to win a few games. I got the Panthers at 17. I'll let you say why you got the Browns.
Yeah, just a lot of talent offensively. Obviously, Freddie Kitchen's a big reason why they're not. Because I remember before the season started, we had them up. We were thinking, but Freddie Kitchens has made this offense. But we always
prefaced it with the two ideas that have sunk the Browns.
Yeah.
Freddie Kitchens shouldn't have gotten that job. Everyone thought we were wrong. Whatever. I'll take the victory lap. And then I also kept mentioning the sophomore slump that takes place. And Baker Mayfield has completely melted down this year. I know it's not getting attention, and there's other stuff to focus on and pick apart. And Freddie Kitchens looking like alcoholic janitor. Also, it takes away, deflects from the pressure on Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
But this is why they're not getting quarterback play. I know everyone's blaming the bookends, the right tackle, left tackle, but it comes down to they're not getting quarterback play or coaching. That's treacherous.
Yeah, and I do blame Freddie Kitchens the most of anything. I know Baker's having a sophomore slump, whatever you want to call it. That's fine, but the play calling is atrocious.
It's bad.
For the Browns.
Yeah, and at 17, I got the Panthers because you got McCaffrey. You got an above-average, chippy defense, although once Bradbury got dinged up, we're starting to see the floodgates open. Eric Reed just getting combusted in coverage. Riverboat Ron on the sideline stressing, blood pressure at 220. That's where you're at with the Panthers. I'm glad we never bought into this playoff run. Although I was surprised how they were able to win like 3 or 4 games straight. I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, and then this next one, and I'm probably going to eat crow for this, and I probably should have them lower because now I have to factor in the injury to Juju Smith-Schuster. That's big for me, but I'm going to put the Steelers here at 18. I love that defense. It keeps them in games. It is playing at a dominant level at defense.
If I got the Jags here, and like we said, once it gets past a certain point here, it's all a matter of opinion.
Yeah.
When I look at the Jags, they can run the rock. You get Foles back. You got Chark as a deep option. Defense probably isn't top 10 anymore, but it's not bottom 10 by any means. It's probably 13th, 14th in this league. That's why I have the Jags, but I might have to start looking at Dougie Marrone, and he might have to get walking because
they're a little bit further down my list, Lawson. But the offense, it should be better than what it is. I mean, I know it's just Nick Foles' first game back, and there's other things that we have to see right now. But even when Nick Foles got hurt in that first game, I mean, I felt like the coaching was part of it. It wasn't a good supporting system for him. I feel like that's happening again. I get nervous when Foles drops back to pass. Now, maybe that is Marrone. If he's the one controlling this offense, I don't know. But I feel like offensively, as far as the vision goes, I mean, maybe they could. I know running the football is part of it, but the passing game is horrific.
I thought adding DeFilippo to that staff would have added a little bit of oomph, but
I would have thought too.
Yeah.
But with that, let's go to 19. And this is where I have the Falcons. The resurgence of the Falcons has a lot to do with this. Talent-wise, we knew that they're a top 10 team. If you're talking on paper. But the way they played, bottom-tier team this year. But they are getting back on track. And if they're going to be the real Falcons, then they're going to beat teams. Like if they played the Panthers, if they played the Jaguars, they're going to beat those teams. If they're actually back.
Okay. I got them quite a bit down, but I understand the argument completely. At 19, I got the Steelers because of the way this defense performs, and Mike Tomlin's doing a tremendous job. That's why I have them this high. But this offense is one of the worst in the league.
It is.
It is.
It's a combination of Rudolph and him learning, and who knows if he's going to get better. I don't know. But now it's so depleted talent-wise. It's a problem.
But here's how depleted some of these teams are talent-wise. Through like the first 6 or 7 weeks, we were able to comfortably say that, the Bills had like a bottom like 10 offense. Can we even say that now because there's so many bad teams?
I'd have to think about it, but
like we used to say like the Bills are like a bottom 6, 7 offense in that area, but we can't even say that now. That's how much it has deteriorated for some of these teams.
I think it probably is because like the Cardinals as a whole aren't a really good football team this year, but they're better offensively.
But the Steelers' offense is terrible. Titans' offense was really terrible. Like the first 6 games, Bengals, Skins, Dolphins, Giants, Broncos, Jets. It's just some bad offenses, man.
Yeah, Bills are better than those teams offensively. And with that, let's go to number 20. And you already mentioned them, the Panthers.
Yeah.
But I just feel like offensively things are starting to come undone. The offensive line has major issues.
Maybe it was a little bit too early to retire Cam Newton. Not that I was old, like, Cam Newton, once he gets back, he's coming. Like, people just think he can't play because he dresses different. Like, no, I wasn't on that bandwagon. But maybe we were all speaking a bit too soon.
I think so, because everybody's already putting him in a Chicago uniform, and that's fine, if you want to move on from him and go with Kyle Allen, but I think when you look at the offensive line, you look at receiving targets, there are other issues with this
team. The Bears are cocked.
They're bad.
They're really, like, I don't know what Trubisky has on him, but he must have something. At 20, I got the Cardinals gift because I've actually seen progression. I've seen revolution. Kyle Murray hasn't put up the best stats, but he's made big game-changing plays like Josh Allen made last year, and he's taken over games at times due to individual brilliance against all odds. The Cardinals don't have a great receiving core. The defense has been playing a lot better since they got thrashed by Carolina, so I got to give them some credit there. They actually have a plan and they're actually moving forward. That's why I have the Cardinals here. I mean, I'm sure you could pick it apart and say, well, Browns or Bears or Chargers have more talent, but give me the Cardinals over them because it actually seems like they have a plan and a goal in mind.
Yeah, and for me, I have the Cardinals a little bit further down, but they started really low for me this season. They're moving up, and I honestly can't disagree with you about that. I'm actually going forward. I'm looking forward to the Cardinals and what they can do. I know they're still a little ways off, but offensively, I went from thinking that this offense wasn't going to work in the NFL to saying, wow.
The desert might be open to us winning easy money again. I felt like that storybook was closed this year, but hopefully it comes back.
And with that, let's go to number 21, and this is where I have the Chargers. Not a lot of defense because of Rivers. That's a huge problem. He's going to lose games just himself.
He has been.
But it's you got to give credit to the team as a whole, though. In that Chiefs game, they were still in it, but Rivers doesn't give them a chance to win. I feel like they do run the ball, well. Keenan Allen balls out. Mike Williams balls out. If they had a better quarterback, you can only imagine what they would accomplish. Defensively, I think they're pretty good, too. Obviously, good pass rush, decent talent across the board, I think. The linebackers are a bit slow for my liking, but overall I think it's one of the better defenses, not a terrible defense.
At 21, I got the Browns, and it's because they still have explosive players. Defense has played pretty good this year. No one's really talked about it. But without Myles Garrett, how dangerous can that defense be? They're not really attuned at covering people.
It's a huge problem for them. Obviously, not like they're going to be making the playoffs this year, but now I don't see how they're going to be able to get any pass rush. Obviously, Denzel Ward being the huge stud I think defensively, Myles Garrett too. Greedy Williams kind of finding his way. Still a lot to be desired, though.
Yeah.
Defensive. And with that, let's go to number 22. And probably a bit too high, but if they start Chase Daniel, I think...
I got the Bears here, too. And I even flirted with having them higher because you still at least have that defense to bank on. I think 22 is fair.
Yeah, they do. I think defensively, if they do start Chase Daniel, there'll be a resurgence, a little bit at least, and then the defense can get back to being pretty good. I mean, they did play good recently. The defense hasn't been a huge issue. We know you can run on them a little bit, but they haven't been terrible. But offensively puts them down this far. And if somebody put them down even farther because of Trubisky, I couldn't argue because offensively they virtually can't do anything.
Yeah, and I got that. They're a bottom 5 offense. Definitely. Jets have a better offense. I would pick the Broncos offense over them. That's how bad the Bears offense is. And we've been trying to beat this Trubisky home for 3-4 years since our old podcast. I guess it's finally been decided. But yet Chase Daniel still can't get a chance.
And he deserves one. I don't know what the stalling is with the Bears on their part. And with that, let's go to number 23. You mentioned them earlier, but the Jaguars. This is where I have them. And I mentioned I'm so worried about this offense. I'm not going to worry about a lone hiccup from their defense.
There's been quite a few hiccups this year.
Yeah, and then they're playing Tennessee this week, right? So
yeah, they're probably going to lose.
Yeah, we're expecting them to get gashed by the run again. That was a problem last year at the end of the season, looking like it's going to be a problem again. You couple that with the offensive issues. Foles coming back, I don't think it's going to inject that much into the team. They're lacking at receiver.
Yeah, we know your opinion on Nick Foles. You make it clear every time we talk about him.
Yeah, I don't think he's a franchise, week 1 through 16 starter. It's just, when has he done it? But, yeah, just not enough offensively there either.
At 23, I got the Chargers. Phillip Rivers is just too bad. This is probably a top 15 team on paper. If you get through in a little bit of Tyrod Taylor, I think they'd be able to win some of these games and be in the hunt for an AFC wildcard position because there are vulnerable teams for that AFC wildcard. Yes. The Bills already seem stamped in, and that second place is absolute wild, wild west shootout for it. Give me the Chargers at 23 because of Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, and it's good that you put it that way because they would be competitive if they had a better quarterback. And with that, let's go to number 24. You mentioned them already, the Cardinals. They might end up being a little bit higher when the season's all said and done for me. You're right. Defensively, they have been playing a little bit better. I still think there's a lot more room for growth defensively going forward. And then offensively, I think that's the biggest surprise for me. I thought they'd be one of the worst offenses in the league. Kyler Murray seems to be getting better each week, making tough NFL throws. They got a young receiving core, too, behind Larry Fitzgerald. That has to develop, but they've gotten better.
Yeah, I got the Bucs here, and the Bucs have a chance to be higher. But one thing, we can talk about Jameis Winston and the turnover battle. That's probably this team's biggest problem. But a problem I think that people aren't talking about is Bruce Arians. I know me and you have hit that on the head. It feels a little bit retirement home. Yeah, this is Bruce Arians. This team should be better than 24 on my list, to be quite honest. We know the defense is struggling, but Todd Bowles has done his part. He's done his fair share, even though they've had some struggles recently. That Tennessee game was kind of ugly. But give me the Bucs at 24.
And they're just a couple spots down for me. And I think you got to mention Winston. Because that's,
you have to, yeah.
Bruce Arians, sure, he deserves some blame, but he's also the same person that said you can win with Jameis. So take that for what it's worth. And with that, let's get to
it's just a man saying something for a child.
Yeah, just because that's what they had to sell the fans.
And because what fans?
Well, that's true. At this point, how many fans would be left with how bad they played, honestly. But with that, let's get to number 25, and not a whole lot of defense here for the Lions, but this is about where I have them. They don't make as many mistakes as, let's say, the Bucs, so they're a little bit higher.
The Lions are really hard to pick, like you said. Yeah. It's because, and with the Lions, I guess you just have to factor in with Matt Stafford, and the offense has been pretty damn dangerous this year. But I think the reason why they're at 25 is because this defense has been being crippled by anything. Remember when Cousins tore them up really, really bad? Vikings could have put up 50 or 60. that game if they needed to. This defense is trash. And Matt Patricia keeps getting excuses. We have someone coming on for a live stream on Saturday telling us why Patricia should keep his job. That should be an interesting one.
And yeah, I'll agree with you about the defense. And then offensively, they can't run the football.
No.
That's a huge issue.
And we kept hearing that. They hired Darren Bevel! Taylor Decker!
Trey Flowers too defensively.
Carry on Johnson and Gift. They haven't ran the ball, and that's probably the biggest issue. Yeah, it's tough for me to say, well, which one is worse. The defense almost getting rang up for 50 a few times when we hear Matt Patricia some sort of super genius, or the fact that they invested so much in offensive line and offensive coordinator saying they're going to run it, yet Matt Stafford is still passing every time, taking extreme levels of punishment.
Yeah, and I would have to say probably the defense is more of an issue at this point because at least Stafford can put up points.
Yeah.
There can be points to be scored. And with that, let's get to 26. Not a whole lot to say. You already mentioned them, the Bucs. They're down here for a reason.
Yeah.
Winston with the turnovers. We were hoping Ronald Jones was going to catch on so that they don't really have a run game. And then offensively, too. I mean, Godwin kind of stepped up for them, so I guess...
Yeah, he's put up some crazy stats. But then again, everyone's doubling Mike Evans, so how serious can you take it?
No, true, but at least they have another option now.
Yeah.
So they have their issues offensively, and then defensively, they have played decent against the run. I think there's some good pieces in the front seven, particularly in the linebacking core. But in the secondary, they have their issues. We've seen games where teams have scored 30 points. It's happened to them a few times this year, so... too many issues for the Bucs. That's why they're down here.
Yeah, 26. They got the Falcons. You might be right, Giff, because if they're probably peaking, and they're probably a lot better than other teams right now. But I got to stay firm because of some of the L's they took.
Yeah, and we still have to see it happen, though. You know, a couple of games isn't going to change much for me either. We got to see it happen. And with that, let's go to number 27, the Jets.
Me too.
This is the area for them. Adam Gase being erratic with the offense, fighting with players. You know, before the season started, we said that could be an issue. Adam Gase is definitely an issue. Le'Veon Bell not having the impact that we thought he would.
But how could he?
With Adam Gase, how could he? And then defensively, I think that there's building that they have to do defensively. They got to get more talent.
Yeah, and we heard this defense is going to be good this year, but even Greg Williams can't seem to get them to perform at even a decent level. We've seen flashes. We've seen Jamal Adams play great, but there really is nothing else on that defense. I don't know why people were thinking that C.J. Mosley's really milked this hamstring quite a long time, too, by the way.
Yeah.
Jets are here because they're a dumpster fire.
Yep, I agree. And with that, let's move on to another team with issues. The Broncos, I have them at 28.
I got the Broncos too, and they're a tough team to place. Like, on a good day, I could see them even beating the Lions, but there's probably going to be mostly bad days with Brandon Allen at quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Broncos fans might get a little bit of invigorance with Locke, but me and you kind of already shot that down already. But let's wait and see.
Yeah, let's wait and see. Because there's optimism in other areas of the team, just not with the quarterback position.
Yeah.
But you got to love your receiving group led by Sutton right now. He's playing out of his mind. You know, going forward, you're going to have Phillip Lindsay as a team. And then defensively, I think Vic Fangio has done a pretty good job, especially down the stretch. Seems like he's getting better with his players. And then next year you can regroup and have Chubb and Von Miller healthy together. So there are building pieces and positives with this team, but you got to find a quarterback. That's one of the first things.
And we did a Joe Flacco sucks video before. I think even maybe during the season, but we've done them before the season. I hope people have realized that he's robbed the Broncos fans.
Yeah, he has. And with that, let's go to 29. This is where I have the Dolphins. You got to give a little bit of credit.
Surprising.
Little credit to a team that we thought would, maybe only win one game. And offensively, a lot of that I think has to go to Fitzpatrick. Him battling.
He's played good.
I think the coach, Flores, I think you got to give some credit there. With not much talent, he's got this team ready, out there fighting. And then defensively, I think, Flores too. Give him credit for that.
I got the Giants because the Giants have more talent. You give it to Saquon, that's easy. Receiving core is pretty decent. Defense is one of the worst in the league, but I got the Giants by a smidgen, and I got the Dolphins at 30 because only Fitzpatrick and Flores.
And I am surprised, though, too, about the Dolphins with Fitzpatrick in recent weeks and taking care of the football. He's taking care of it more than I thought he would. And that's why at number 30 I have the Giants below them, because Daniel Jones cannot take care of the football. Talent-wise, offensively, the team's actually decent. But Daniel Jones makes it not decent.
Agreed.
And defensively, you mentioned, one of the worst defenses in the league,
but
if not
Pat
the worst.
Shermer will be the man to be blamed for all of this. So
It seems like it.
yeah, and that's why you get in the position you're in. Okay, give me your 31.
31 Redskins.
Same here, Skins. Gift. I was flirting, though, with putting the Skins at 32, especially with the Haskins future.
With how
because
bad,
Finley's look better than Haskins.
Yes,
So,
it's true. Haskins has looked bad. Field goals at best for Haskins, not good enough. And then defensively, between the injuries and what's transpired, they're still a little bit physical against the run, but not much left there either.
Yeah, and Bengals at 32 for me still, although they've started to look better. So that's really all I have to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good effort against the Raiders, but 0 wins gets you 32.
Subscribe, hit the like button, share the videos. The Lawson and Gift Podcast.